Now, getting into the strengths for each guy, because I kind of want to talk about the strengths that each man brings into the cage, and then I want to talk about some potential susceptibilities. So for me, starting with Jamal Hill, his strengths, if you go back and watch some of his earlier fights, the fight with Jimmy Crute, even with Johnny Walker, an opponent much taller than him, he's extraordinarily good at landing short shots, short hooks, short overhands, the hook that put Jimmy Crute out, the overhand that put Johnny Walker out. He's also got a very underrated clinch game. A lot of people, when you think of Alex Pereira, it's like he's this guy who's an incredible kickboxer, and he is, every bit that. But I think, and so you would automatically kind of think that maybe Poatan's going to get the upper hand if this thing goes into a clinch sort of position. He might be able to fire some knees up the middle, get some short elbows and things like that. But I think Jamal can match Poatan as far as the clinch is concerned. He lands some devastating knees to the body, some devastating knees to the face. On the breaks from the clinch, he's very good with the elbows and the short hooks. Now, where he might be a bit susceptible to Poatan is on his entries. One, he's very heavy on his front leg at times, and Poatan is a sniper at finding that low calf kick. When you go back and watch the Yuri Prohaska versus Poatan fight, you notice that Yuri was switching stances a lot because every time he would put even an ounce of weight on that front leg, Poatan would read it and crack that calf.
Right.
So that's going to slow down the offensive of Jamal Hill if he's not careful, because Jamal likes to come forward and bring the fight to you.
Right.
The other thing is Jamal, while he does throw a very powerful 1-2 down the middle, he does lean a little bit forward and his chin comes up just a bit if you watch some of those, combinations that he does. And one thing we know about Poatan is that front hook of him is lights out. I know Jamal's nickname is Sweet Dreams, but it has been Sweet Dreams for many a fighter when they step in too close to Alex Pereira. I'm thinking Sean Strickland right now. And Alex is very good about lulling you into his range. He'll kind of bounce around, stand still, like see if you're going to approach him or whatnot, and you almost don't even feel like you're in his range, and then he'll get you with one of those hooks, and it's like, man, I thought I was out of range for that, and the next thing you know, you're, the referee's helping you stand up off of the canvas. So Jamal's really got to be careful with his entries. Now, the flip side of that, Alex Pereira, what are some strengths that he can use? Obviously, I mentioned the front hook. I think that's going to be really key for him is that check hook, because Jamal, he's a bum rush kind of fighter. He's not going to stand back and wait to see what you do. Jamal Hill is going to come forward. He's going to try to knock you out. He's going to push you up against the cage, and he's going to try to bully you because he believes in his chin and he believes in his power. So Alex has got to be really tactful with his leg kicks, the calf kick as well as the thigh kick. Try to slow the offensive down of Jamal Hill. Really start to land that check hook to make Jamal think twice about coming in on him, and then stay off the cage because Jamal is nasty against the cage. And the one place that we saw Alex get totally flatlined in the UFC was when he was pressuring Izzy against the cage. Right. Jamal can almost lull him into, pressuring him against the cage, and then boom, he'll crack you with that overhand, and that shot that Izzy threw was almost like a short overhand that put Poatan out. Right. So you got to be very careful for that because Jamal Hill throws that shot just as good and probably with more power. So I say all that to say I'm leaning towards Poatan to win this fight. I think he's just a touch more technical. I think that he's going to be aware of the few things that Jamal Hill can do that could get him out of there, and he's going to, have some wrinkles in his game plan to avoid them. Also, the X factor and sort of the elephant in the room is we don't know how well Jamal has recovered from the Achilles injury. That's a nasty injury. And then if you want to add one more layer to it, Glover Teixeira is Alex Pereira's main training partner, and Jamal won the belt off of Glover. So what did Glover bring into the training room after having spent 25 minutes in the cage with Sweet Dreams that Alex can use to defeat him?
Yeah, well, I love all of that. And the fact that Alex Pereira just can't seem to avoid amazing, epic storylines just speaks to the level that he's at. And there's something really special about him. And I kind of want to touch on the X's and O's. You talked about the low calf kick. It's very important for him to attack Jamal Hill's legs early on in this fight, and the body for that part. But, we always talk about getting in close to range, and you have to watch out for Jamal Hill's clinch work because, like you've said, it's underrated and it's very good. He throws really powerful knees. He seems to find his target when he does that, and then he's really good at mixing the punches in to elbows in that close range. But Alex Pereira is very good at counter-striking, but he does it in an unorthodox way. A lot of people think that counter-striking is waiting to see what your opponent does and then immediately reacting with cat-like reflexes. And that's not what counter-striking is. Counter-striking is setting something up, waiting, understanding what they're going to throw, and baiting them in with something of your own to get them to throw what they want. Once you draw that out of them, then you attack, and that's what counter-striking is. But Alex Pereira has the threat of the offense, which is very similar to like what we talk about when we say the threat of the takedown is almost as deadly as the takedown itself. Alex Pereira can sit right in front of you and not throw anything, and he's just waiting for you. And he doesn't have cat-like reflexes like an actual cat does. He's just a human like everybody else, but he's very good at threatening offense without actually throwing anything and wasting energy. And while I think that is a blessing, it can also be a curse, because if I can make one small criticism about Alex Pereira's game so far in the UFC, it's that he does get a little bit too patient at times. And when you're dealing with 205ers, you're dealing with more power. A guy with a fight named Sweet Dreams can put the lights out on anybody, and especially somebody who spent the majority of their career fighting in multiple different sports at 185, moving up. I believe Alex Pereira can get knocked out with a single shot off Jamal Hill. And if he's not careful and if he plays too patient of a game, he's extending the amount of time that Jamal Hill has to find that knockout shot. That's why he has to be very tenacious in the early parts of this fight. He's got to make Jamal Hill worry about his power. He's got to worry about his punches, and that's where he gets the bulk of his work done, is with the great punches. Everybody knows he's got this infamous calf kick, and the way he sets it up and throws it is different than almost anybody, and the way he actually lands it with like the inside of his foot is different than some people. A lot of people like to turn over and kick with the shin, just like a standard kick to the thigh, but he does it a little bit differently, and he's able to whip it up a little bit quicker than most people that turn their hips over and everything. So Jamal Hill really has to watch out for the low calf kick, but if he has Alex Pereira start to walk him down and he's trying to throw some offense, but instead of getting really active with his offense, Poatan starts to lull him in and sit there and be patient, I think Jamal Hill has a better chance at finding that single shot knockout, or at least something to rock Poatan and get him, on the ground and potentially some ground and pound situation or something like that. I believe that Alex Pereira has to be really gung-ho from the beginning of this fight and make the bigger man, which I believe when we see these two square off in the cage, Jamal Hill will be slightly bigger. Roughly about the same height, but I think Jamal has a slightly bigger frame.
A little thicker.
Yeah, a little bit thicker, and he packs a serious punch. So Alex Pereira needs to come out of the gate guns a-blazing. And I think for Jamal Hill, if he's able to put some power on Poatan early, he can draw out exactly what I was just saying, which is a little bit of timidity and a little bit of patience out of Pereira. And anything you can do to slow Alex Pereira's offense down is going to be a good thing for you. It's no easy task to fight Alex Pereira and get your hand raised doing it. But if anybody's got the ability to shut his lights off with one shot, especially in the light heavyweight division, it's Sweet Dreams Jamal Hill.
Yeah, and I think you're so spot on when you say that Alex Pereira being too patient could potentially cost him in this fight.
Well, thank you.
And I'm still going to, pick him to win. I think he's got the skill set to defeat Sweet Dreams, but he could run into some real trouble if Sweet Dreams starts to do the sort of walking down, bum rushing style that he's known for, and Alex doesn't throw something that makes him at least think twice before doing that. Right. Because if you have Jamal Hill rushing you and you're not putting something back in his face and you're not landing shots that are hurting him, then he's going to start to tee off on you. Yeah. And while Poatan, I believe, does have a good chin, we have seen him starched before by Adesanya. Right. And I would argue that while, Jamal Hill is not nearly as technical as Israel Adesanya, he does have more power. And I think that's pretty clear. So if Adesanya can knock you out, Jamal Hill definitely can. So activity from both guys. This is going to be a competition of who's going to implement their game plan first, establish it, and stick to it. Because if you allow Poatan to just stand in range and tee off on you and chop that calf, you're not going to be able to do what you do best, which is come in on your fighters and take your opponents and take the fight to them. On the flip side of that, if Alex is too patient and Jamal Hill starts rushing in, throwing those big power shots, throws some knees up the middle and starts to deteriorate the gas tank of Poatan and starts to hurt him a little bit, then things start to sway back into Jamal's favor.
Right.
So, Final prediction, Powhatan. I think he's going to get it done by technical knockout sometime mid-fight, second or third round.
Well, I love that prediction. And this was a really hard one to pick. The odds makers have it really close for a good reason. Jamal Hill hasn't been as active, so I think a little bit of inactivity is the reason he's coming in as the underdog. And Powhatan has been active, and he's really one of the hottest names in all of MMA right now. He's on everybody's mind. He's constantly in the headlines. So I can see why people might think he's got the foot up on Jamal Hill, but Jamal Hill is just as nasty as Powhatan is with the striking. And even though neither of them look as buttoned up as a Sugar Sean or as a Izzy Adesanya, they get the job done, and they know what works best with their body. They have these combinations and these adjustments and these counter strikes that really work for them. And look, both of them are susceptible to being knocked out, and both of them get hit a lot. So I absolutely see this fight ending in knockout. And I'm going to lean towards Sweet Dreams Jamal Hill getting his belt back. I think the underdog, the slight underdog, is going to go in there and he's going to try to strike with Powhatan. I don't think for a second, unless it's a TKO stoppage, that the ground situation happens for about 5 seconds, that this fight's going to go to the ground for one bit.
Nope.
And Alex Pereira leaves his hands down, which he's good enough to do, and so does Jamal Hill. But both of them have to really wonder if their chin is going to be able to hold up for 25 minutes. And I don't think it can, because both of them know how to find their targets, and they're both really good at counter-striking. And what I see is once Alex Pereira does start to push on the gas a little bit, he comes in a little bit like Yuri Prochazka with his hands down and looking for his angles. And as we've seen time and time again with Jamal Hill, it might not be the prettiest thing. It might not look like it's generating a lot of power. It might not look like it came from the ground all the way through his body and come out of his hands when he lands his strikes. But damn, there's some real power on his shots. And even if it's while he's stepping backwards, or even if he's trying to throw some sort of counter hook or a check hook or something like that, he still has the ability to knock people out. And that's why I'm leaning towards Jamal Hill to get his hand raised, because at the end of the day, they're both going to get touched a little bit. And for me, for some reason, I just feel like he has a little bit more durability than Powhatan.
I think that's a perfect place to end it. Can't wait for the fight.
Me either.